Welcome back to The Explainer. All right, we are going on a highly visual, just incredibly vibrant journey today. If you're the kind of person who loves grabbing a pen, a stylus, or honestly just some basic markers to create something awesome, you absolutely have to hear what we're covering. We're going to break down the exact mechanics behind some truly magical visual effects. Specifically, we're diving into 7 RGB drawing tricks that'll take your standard everyday sketches and make them literally pop right off the page. You know those insane, almost Ghibli-style pieces you see scrolling your feed? The ones that physically look like they're plugged into a wall and radiating light? It is so easy to look at that and think, wow, that must take years of intense study or some crazy digital wizardry. But actually, scratch that. It turns out the mystery behind that incredible glow isn't magic at all. It's really just clever technique. It relies heavily on brilliant RGB color strategies that, frankly, anyone can use.
Okay, let's dive right into this. We're looking at exactly 7 simple, straightforward tricks today to manipulate red, green, and blue, instantly making your artwork vibrate with energy. Grab your mental notebook because you're going to want to try these out immediately.
Trick number 1 is your foundation, the RGB split effect. Step 1 is super easy. Just draw your subject in standard, solid black ink. Nothing fancy yet. But here's the twist. For step 2, you add a super thin red outline, but only on one side of your subject. Just trace the left edge, for instance. Then, step 3, you add a blue or cyan outline on the exact opposite side. When you do that, boom, you create the digital glitch illusion. By isolating that harsh red on the left and the super vibrant blue or cyan on the right, you are quite literally tricking the human eye. The contrasting wavelengths of these specific colors, sitting right across from a heavy black line, create massive visual tension. Your eye perceives the drawing as vibrating. It gives the whole sketch this incredibly cool, energetic digital glitch effect right there on the canvas.
Now, if the split effect creates a glitch, this next trick is how you get a massive, radiant impact. We call this the neon glow technique. Once again, start with your solid black marker. But this time, instead of just splitting 2 colors on opposite sides, you're going to go all the way around. Add bright red, green, and blue highlights hugging every edge of that black ink. But the real secret sauce here is step 3, blending those bright RGB highlights softly together. That smooth blend around the heavy, dark edges is what creates a luminous, glowing neon effect that just completely grabs your attention.
Okay, here is a major plot twist for you. When we think about drawing shadows under a character or an object, we almost always default to standard, flat gray, right? I mean, it's just what we're taught. But look at the difference here. What if, instead of relying on boring flat gray, we created 3 separate shadows for the subject? 1 red, 1 green, and 1 blue.
Notice what happens when you take those 3 separate RGB shadows and just slightly offset them from one another beneath your subject. You completely abandon that flat, 2-dimensional look. This offset trick instantly creates a futuristic 3D illusion. It gives your artwork an unbelievable sense of depth and movement. By simply pulling apart the light spectrum in your shadows, the entire drawing suddenly feels like it has real, tangible volume.
And that brings us perfectly into a technique that will make your artwork look like a still frame from a $100 million sci-fi movie. It's called cinematic lighting. To pull this off, imagine overlapping RGB light sources shining right onto your scene from off-camera. You color one side of your subject with a really warm, intense red light, and the other side with a cool, sharp blue light. The absolute magic touch, though? Adding green specifically in the little areas where those red and blue reflections meet and overlap. It takes a flat sketch and turns it into a whole cinematic world.
But to really nail that professional, deep finish in your cinematic scenes, you need smooth gradient layering. You want to avoid just filling an area with one flat, solid block of color. It's all about the transitions. Think about blending your red seamlessly into purple, easing that blue directly into cyan, and fading the green right into yellow. Layering these specific color pairs as smooth gradients gives your artwork a rich, complex depth that a single color just can't touch. It makes the lighting feel undeniably real.
Let's zoom in for this next trick because it's all about the tiny details. If you're drawing shiny objects, think glass, robots, expressive eyes, or even tiny water droplets, you've got to use RGB reflection highlights. By dropping in minuscule, distinct red, green, and blue highlights onto these glossy surfaces, you are perfectly simulating how a wet or shiny object refracts ambient light. It makes these elements look polished, realistic, and super dynamic, like suddenly that little drawn water droplet actually looks wet.
All right, brace yourselves for a complete paradigm shift. Here is the grand reveal: black background magic. Ditch the white paper entirely. Seriously, just toss it out. One of the absolute easiest, most effective ways to make your RGB colors scream off the page is to draw directly onto black paper.
Why does this work so well? It literally comes down to sheer visual physics. Bright markers paired with a dark canvas equals an incredibly dramatic glow. When you throw bright red, green, and blue against a stark, pitch-black background, you are maximizing the contrast to its absolute limit. The colors appear vastly more vivid than they ever could on standard white paper. That dark background practically forces the bright RGB colors to project outward, creating this intense, radiating glow. If you haven't tried this yet, you have to. It's a total game changer for your markers.
We are nearing the end of our explainer today, but, every great magic show has to have a final prestige. For those of you sticking around and looking to take these techniques to the absolute top tier, there's an ultimate pro secret that ties every single one of these glowing RGB tricks together perfectly.
And here it is, at the very end of your drawing process. When you think you're done, grab a white gel pen. It is an amazing rule of thumb to remember. Tiny white dots and lines make RGB colors look brighter, cleaner, and way more realistic. Placing just a few tiny, pure white highlights right over your blended RGB edges or your glassy reflections acts as the absolute brightest point of light in the whole composition. It locks the entire illusion into place and makes the bright colors around it seem even more blindingly radiant.
So if you take literally nothing else away from this explainer today, remember this. Creating mind-blowing artwork isn't just about flawless line art or perfect proportions. It is deeply about creative color experimentation. Do not be afraid to mix light and shadow in weird, unexpected ways. Bold color combinations, especially leveraging these very specific RGB tricks, are exactly what turn ordinary sketches into extraordinary masterpieces.
So I want to leave you with this question. Which RGB technique are you going to try first? Are you going to test out that digital glitch effect? Or are you maybe going to dive right into drawing on black paper with those cinematic lighting tricks? Go pick up your pens right now, experiment, and just see the magic for yourself. If you enjoyed exploring these visual breakdowns and want to keep mastering new concepts with us, make sure to subscribe for more creative ideas. Thanks so much for joining me on The Explainer, and keep creating.